What's up guys, I'm Glenn, and this is the Storm Category 5. What is it? How do you use it? And what makes it our best regulator yet? We'll answer those questions and more on today's episode of What the Tech. With the last generation of Storm, we had two options: the Storm on tank and the Storm high pressure. This meant you had to choose between a faster refresh rate or a higher overall operating pressure. With the new Cat 5, you no longer have to choose. This regulator offers the pressure range of both regulators with an even faster refresh rate, as well as a more robust design with fewer failure points. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and screw the regulator directly onto any HPA tank with standard threads. You'll notice that it only pressurizes with the last half to 3/4 of a turn. Then we'll go ahead and connect the airline. Next, we'll go ahead and connect the other end of the airline right to the gun. To adjust the pressure, we'll take the included 3/32 hex key and adjust the screw clockwise to turn the pressure up. We'll turn it counterclockwise to turn the pressure down. It's worth noticing that if you don't have a gun connected to dry fire while you do this, even though I turn the pressure down, the gauge still shows that it's high. So you want to have something connected to the regulator so you can fire the excess pressure out of the system and have your gauge show your true pressure. While we're talking about the pressure in the gauge, it's worth mentioning that the Cat 5 uses a higher pressure gauge, and you might notice that the needle can take a little bit longer to jump back to the correct pressure reading after firing than you might expect. It's mostly noticeable when firing at a really high rate of fire. This is not the regulator refreshing, but simply a limitation of the gauge. So now that we have the pressure set, let's go ahead and tournament lock the regulator. One great feature about the Cat 5 is how easy it is to use the tournament lock. Simply put a zip tie in the channel and tighten it down. To remove the Cat 5, simply unscrew the tank one complete turn. Go ahead and vent the pressure from your gun, and then you can completely unscrew the tank. Now that you understand the basic operation, let's go ahead and take a look at some preventative maintenance. The Storm Cat 5 has high precision hardened steel internals, and to help prevent corrosion, we recommend spraying some silicone oil in the vent hole of the regulator every 50,000 shots or so. Now, every 100,000 shots, or if your regulator sits for a long period of time, it may be necessary to take it apart and lubricate the O-rings. So let's take a look at how to tear it down. So to get started, I recommend grabbing a nice clean sheet of paper. The cleaner you can keep all this, the better. Next, get a 1.5mm hex key and remove the 4 screws around the regulator. Next, we'll take the included adjustment key, stick it through the holes in the base, and unscrew it. Next, we'll go ahead and remove the internals of the regulator. If giving your cap a shake doesn't let them fall out, you'll want to take your adjustment key and give your screw a few turns clockwise until all the internals will fall out just by giving it a shake. Just be sure to not screw the screw in too far, as doing so could damage your piston. Next, we're going to grab the core, set it on its end, and start disassembling it. First, we'll take the adjustment spacer and we'll screw the screw all the way out. Next, we'll take the adjustable spring base and then the 7 baffles that are on the piston. One thing that you should know about the piston is that there is a high precision sealing surface on the bottom of the shaft. You want to be sure to handle the piston with care and not damage the sealing surface. That surface seals against the rubber reg seat in here, so while you have this apart, if you see any visible damage to your reg seat, go ahead and replace it before reassembly. Now that we have the regulator taken apart, I'm just going to grab a lint-free rag and wipe any residual lube off of the parts. Next, we'll go ahead and replace the O-rings. Next, we'll grab the 3 spare O-rings from the included O-ring kit. This one can be a little tricky, but if you can just get it started with something even like your hex key, just get it started down in the groove, pop it in place without too much trouble. Next, we're going to go ahead and relubricate everything. I'm going to use this Tect gun salve, but any silicone-based lubricant will work just fine. Just going to get some on the piston O-ring. And for the O-ring down inside this, if you don't have a small applicator, you can just get some on your piston shaft and slide them together. Now that we have everything cleaned and relubed, we're going to go ahead and start reassembling everything. The first thing to do is going to be to reinstall the spring washers on your piston. We're going to install them like so. Now, pay attention to the orientation of them, as it is critical to the performance of the regulator. And while if you get them in the wrong order, it won't be catastrophic, you will notice that the pressure range of your regulator is not where it should be. Next, we're going to grab the spring base, then the adjustment spacer. You'll notice that there's a key in the spacer here. You'll want to get it lined up with the ramp on the base. Then we'll take the core, lightly lubricate the outside of it, and then paying attention to your adjustment screw to be sure that it lines up with the hole in your cap. Slide it all back together. It might take a little bit of wiggling to get it to slide in correctly. Now we'll take the adjustment screw and screw it gently back into the adjustment hole, being sure that you don't cross thread anything. Now you'll want to make sure that you just screw it flush with the surface of the regulator. If you screw it in too far, you're going to push the components away from each other and make it very hard to attach the base. And then we'll take the base and screw it back down gently until it stops. Now you can take your adjustment key and just center your adjustment screw and then slide it through the hole in the base and screw it down until it stops firmly. Take your 4 screws and screw them back in around the base. Just screw them until they stop and then snug them down. Now that we got it all reassembled, we'll go ahead and screw it onto the tank real quick. And I don't hear any leaks, so we should be good. So that was our in-depth look at the Storm Category 5. If you found this video useful, don't forget to drop a like so we can know how we did. If you want the owner's manual, you'll find that link down below. And also, if you want to see more great content like this, don't forget to hop over to our channel and maybe drop a follow while you're there. Thanks, guys.